Usually when we talk about risk management and let's say supply chain issues, that sort of thing, we usually think in terms of a disruption in traditional manufacturing, which in turn leads us to think in terms of the impact on consumer products or aerospace parts, what have you. So a supply chain disruption might be inconvenient, but it's not really the end of the world, right? I just won't get my PlayStation at Christmas or whatever. But as was pointed out in an article in The Conversation by Morton Wendelboe and Christine Crudo-Blackburn, this year's flu outbreak showed a weakness in our medical supply chain that could have really serious consequences. In the article, "This year's flu exposes a flaw in our medical system," the authors point out that this year's flu outbreak was already one of the worst on record. As of January 6th, when this article was written, 20 children had died from the flu, and overall mortality caused by this particular virus, was already double that of last year's. And one of the issues that potentially makes this situation worse is that of the IV saline bags used in common medical treatments and procedures, including severe cases of flu, these are all made in Puerto Rico, say the authors, or many of them are made in Puerto Rico. So you have this flu outbreak, requires a lot of treatment. Part of that treatment is IV saline bags, and they were in short supply because they come from Puerto Rico, which was what? Recovering from Hurricane Maria. Now, according to the article, hospitals in some areas of the U.S. that are operating at or above capacity because of the flu are quickly running low on saline. And this is the flaw in the medical supply chain that the authors are writing about there. They're kind of bringing to everybody's attention. Many different types of important medical equipment and medicines either come from abroad or rely on a single producer, and in some cases, both, right? Single producer and abroad. So they point out that approximately 80% of all pharmaceuticals used by Americans are produced overseas, usually in China and India. 43% of saline in the United States, 43%, comes from Puerto Rico. Add to that, on top of all this, the idea of the lean principle of just-in-time delivery. You can see where this is going, right? There are two ways that just-in-time system can be disrupted, write the authors: an unexpected surge in demand or a delay in delivery. In this case, we actually had both a potent strain of the flu and a stoppage of saline production in Puerto Rico. So, what the authors are saying, just as it is with manufacturing, public health and emergency preparedness officials need to understand and do a risk assessment of their supply chain. And as with any good manufacturing purchase department, I've worked in several, healthcare organizations need to look at diversifying both the producers and the location of where they get their medical supplies. So in other words, you don't want to get all of your medical supplies from maybe one country, like Puerto Rico or Japan or China or India. And you want multiple producers if possible, maybe in different countries. So you might be getting some of your saline from Puerto Rico, but you may be getting more of your, some more of your saline locally or from Canada or whatever, right? So that if one goes down, you at least have another producer that you can go to for your supplies.
Yeah, I mean the classic example of that really was in Fukushima, where we saw a lot of the electronics industry really was whacked hard. Because it was really centered in that area of Japan, and it was a really major problem for a lot of reasons. And I mean, this isn't a black swan event. I have to say this. I mean,
it is not.
People would say, well, it's a black swan. I mean, who could ever think there'd be a natural disaster at the same time there was a surge in demand? Well, these things happen. These aren't that rare that you have these kind of impacts happen at the same time. And yeah, diversifying your supply chain is a risk management tool that you really need to kind of consider.
And just real quickly, not so much the case with IV saline, there's nothing proprietary about that, but this is an issue you got to think about with specialty drugs who only have one producer. It's like, okay, if you only have one producer, which may be necessary, and that producer only makes that drug in one location, man, now you're really setting yourself up for trouble.
You're really in trouble if something goes down at that location. All right, thanks, Derek.